What's up, everybody? You're back with me, Ian Kane. A huge welcome to this week's first installment of DappRadar Meets. The date today is Tuesday, June 21st. A really warm welcome to all you wonderful listeners. Thanks for tuning in to another episode. It's really cool to be here. I hope you're all having a great week so far. It's only Tuesday, so it can only get better, I would predict. As always, we record these sessions, so for people to catch up later, and if you missed any of the previous shows, you can get them on YouTube. One of the real reasons to do this is sometimes in these sessions we go through some pretty complex topics, so you can go back, listen through, and unpack any of those topics at your own leisure. So head over to YouTube, type in DappRadar, and you'll find everything you need. So for the people that don't already know, DappRadar is a world leader in Dapp analytics and discovery. We track thousands of Dapps across more than 45 blockchains, and our portfolio manager lets you manage your crypto and NFT assets all in one place. One of the very cool features of the portfolio manager is its ability to drag in all of your assets. So for example, if during the last 2 years you've been pretty active and you've been out there buying a lot of tokens and maybe engaging in some DeFi positions, you may have actually forgotten what you got up to. By putting your wallet address into DappRadar, it will show you everything inside your wallet. Because as you know, when you use MetaMask, you sometimes have to add. So yeah, that's just one of the very cool features. So go and check it out. All right, let's jump off then, shall we? Today, I'm excited to welcome Alex. He's the CEO of Aurora Labs, Alex Shevchenko, to talk about their smart contract blockchain. Let's do a quick sound check. Do I have you there, Alex?
It looks like that. Hello, everybody.
Hey, man, how you doing? You good today?
Yeah, pretty good. For me, as always, the beginning of the week is the most exciting time. I always think in the beginning of the week that there are so much things that I can do during this week. It gives me lots of energy.
And then it comes to Friday and you look back and think, oh, wow, I didn't get all those things done I wanted to do this week, usually, right?
Yeah, something like that, yeah. But then I think, okay, we have a little bit of time during the weekend. And then on Monday, again, the boost of the energy.
Oh, Alex, I feel this mentality so hard. Like Monday's the day when you can conquer the world. Tuesday, it becomes a little bit less likely. And by Wednesday, you're like, right, what can I definitely get done this week? So yeah, cool. All right, so Alex is in the house and he's sounding good. So Alex, I'm just going to run through some bits and bobs as we just spoke about. It's the beginning of the week. Already, there's been some pretty big stories circulating in the world of Daps. So I'll come back to you in a sec, okay, man? As always, the blockchain space does not fail to deliver on controversy. We've got lots of stuff happening this week, but some cool stuff happening as well. So play-to-earn games are pumping, and Crypto Blades has powered its way to the top of the DappRadar game charts. It's done an almost 2,000% increase in active wallets in the last week, which has pushed it up to number 1. In line with that, we dropped our latest blockchain game report in association with the Blockchain Game Alliance. So go and check that out if you want to keep up to date with everything that's happening in blockchain gaming. It's a very exciting category right now, and we're seeing quite a lot of usage in that area despite what's happening with crypto prices. Also, just to mention, the DappRadar team is out in force at NFT NYC. So if you're there, look out for my colleagues in their blue t-shirts and say, what's up? They'll be more than happy to hang out, to answer any of your questions, or just have a chat. Also, I spoke about controversy earlier. We reported on a potential insider trading of CryptoPunks. Activity swelled more than 750% just before an important announcement over the weekend from Yuga Labs about the appointment of Noah Davis as the brand lead for the NFT collection. Bit of speculation going on there, so have a look and read into the article. We also took a dive into crypto regulation worldwide, so we could give our users an update on the latest and what's happening in the industry. It's always good to stay abreast of what's going on regarding regulation so you can make moves in advance. More importantly, token prices are down. I think we all know that if you checked your phone this morning. But Dapp usage is up. So people are finding utility and usage, and this is great for DappRadar and this is great for the industry overall. And yeah, I think it just shows moreover that this could, we don't like to call it a bear market, we're calling it a builder's market. So yeah, it's time to start looking around and seeing who's building. All right, and lots of other stuff on the blog, so go and check that out, but not right now, because now we need to go to the main event. And as regular listeners know, every week I sit down with the brightest minds, blockchains, networks, dapps, NFT collections. We dig in and we try to figure out what they're all about. And we also give you guys a chance to ask your questions. So don't be shy. If you've got a question for Alex, please put your hand up and I'll put you on stage. You can ask your question. If you are a bit shy, fire that question into the general chat. I'll read it out for you. All right, Alex, I think I've warmed everybody up. So let's jump into what I like to call the elevator pitch. You're basically trapped inside an elevator with me. We're going to be trapped in here for like a minute. And I want you to tell me about Aurora and why DApp developers and the wider audience should be paying attention to what you guys are up to. So no pressure. Off you go.
Sure. So Aurora is the Ethereum compatibility solution based on top of Near protocol. That allows DApp developers that have their smart contracts that are written in Solidity to launch their smart contracts in more performant and cheaper environment, the Near blockchain. From that standpoint, we're pretty similar to any other scalability solutions to Ethereum, like Polygon or Phantom or others. And that's the main thing that we do. However, besides that, we are focusing on two distinctive topics. First one is the much better user experience when working with the blockchain. And I have a product that is named Aurora Plus for it. And the second thing is the scalability of the blockchains. And the core component there is that Near blockchain is a scalable L1 solution. So we can bring the scalability to EVM-compatible chains. And this product is still in the development, so please follow the releases. That's the Aurora.
Nice, pretty good, Alex. I'm very interested, and you did an excellent job there of summarizing that. Things can get quite complicated in this world. So just to summarize, Aurora is an EVM-compatible chain designed to be able to scale Ethereum-compatible dapps with high throughput and scalable platform with low transaction costs for users. So we've got the big bird's eye view. Now I just want to backtrack slightly, Alex, and I just want to find out a little bit about you. So I want to start at the beginning, and I want you to tell me how you ended up in this crazy world of blockchains and where you came from. Were you working for Near? Did you transition from being a chef? What's your journey?
Yeah. The transition was actually pretty smooth. Back in 2015, I ended my PhD that was about parallel computation on hybrid systems. So I'm the tech guy. Okay. And it was about, many computers working together on solving some kind of problem. And when I figured out that there is a blockchain and there are also many computers that are working on solving some kind of different problem, but still a pretty interesting one, I thought that this is a great place where I can apply my skills. So starting 2015, I'm in the blockchain industry, have been working for the company named Bitfury. These are the big Bitcoin miners, but they were creating their software department there, and I was working on the permissioned blockchain framework that is called Exonum. Most probably the project is already dead, but it was one of the projects it was probably the first project that started to use Rust as a programming language inside of the blockchain. It was way before Rust was having even an official stable release. And I know that in Near, some of the pieces of Exonum are actually reused. So I still count it as a contribution to the development of the blockchain.
Yeah, of course. The fail is still a win, right? I would say, yeah.
Absolutely. And later during my time in Bitfury, we connected back with my schoolmate Ilya, who said that, okay, I just found that Near protocol. Maybe we can work somehow together. And I said, well, maybe yes, but unfortunately we didn't find the way how to do it. And later on, when I became a free agent, Ilya invited me to work next to him and focus on the Ethereum kind of initiatives. And later on, after 9 months of work inside of Near, we decided to spin off Aurora as a separate company. And actually, this decision was made internally even sooner, like after 4 months. And we figured out that everything is working good. Our communication is great. We decided that we were going to do the spin-off, but I said, no, let me please release Rainbow Bridge and Aurora, and only then do the spin-off.
So you wanted to make sure you had some interoperability there before launching anything. But why the Aurora spin-off, Alex? Why did this come around of the idea of a spin-off to the Near blockchain? What's the kind of benefits of this? What was the idea behind it?
So the idea is pretty simple. This is the core idea of the blockchain: make things decentralized. Decentralized systems and decentralized teams are actually working better. In case you have one single corporation that has many different products, it is very hard for this corporation to stay focused. There are internal politics. Everybody is trying to, be or sound a little bit more important than others. Instead of pursuing this path, it's better to create more CEOs in the ecosystem, I would say, and give an ability for everybody to choose their own way, and give them full autonomy. So they are, instead of proving to somebody that they need to have an allocation of the resources, well, let them just prove this to investors, and that's it. And moreover, more decentralized world, everybody are going to benefit from it. So this move was very in line with the culture that is inside of the blockchain as a whole, and Near in particularly. Moreover, Aurora is not the only spin-off from Near. There are many different companies that spun off Near and now are successful companies.
That makes an awful lot of sense, Alex. And you've explained that brilliantly well. I can see how that works. That you wanted Aurora to stand on its own legs and be able to make its own decisions aside from Near. So yeah, it makes perfect sense to me. One thing I wanted to kind of break down is a common kind of, not a question, but sometimes people struggle to understand. Like, for example, you can be looking at TVL on Near and you're actually looking at TVL across Near and Aurora, and it can get a little bit confusing. And I just wondered whether, so the statement goes on the website: Aurora provides Ethereum compatibility, Near protocol scalability, and industry first user experience with affordable transactions. Can you tell us a bit about the tech behind this and how you're delivering that, and the kind of, the DApp is running on Aurora? Am I right in saying that it's therefore not running on the Near blockchain? How do you differentiate here? And in a simple way, how can people understand this a bit better?
Yeah, so that's I can tell you that the architecture of Aurora is a masterpiece. Nobody is doing these crazy things that we actually do. And it's not only about Aurora, it's also about Rainbow Bridge, and it is also about some other projects that we're doing. So all of them are, if you will go pretty deep in it, it's going to blow your mind. You will say that I didn't know that you can do it like that. So let's start with Aurora. Aurora is not a separate chain, though it is viewed from the external parties as a separate L1 network. Yeah. In fact, Aurora is a smart contract that is working on top of Near. And inside of this smart contract, what we have is a full-sized implementation of an EVM. And this smart contract literally has one method, or like the most used method. And this method is called execute. And the parameter of this method is Ethereum transaction. So literally what happens when people are interacting with Aurora is the following. They're signing their Ethereum transaction in the MetaMask, and they're sending it to our RPC. Our RPC is taking this transaction, wrapping it into Near transaction, and this transaction means, hey, Aurora smart contract, please execute the method execute with this Ethereum transaction, and then push this Near transaction to the Near protocol. Near protocol executes it, goes to the Aurora smart contracts. Aurora smart contract blows up the full EVM, and then unwraps user transactions and executes it and stores the information, makes the Uniswap trades or whatever is in this transaction, and this is how it works. So EVM as a whole is implemented as a smart contract on top of Near protocol.
Okay, got it. That's very clear. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I just find sometimes blockchain can be so complicated sometimes, and as you rightly said, it's as deep as you want to go if you want to blow your own mind. I like to keep things fairly simple in these chats and try to give people the kind of bird's eye view and why it's useful more than anything, Alex, I think. So let's talk about the kind
So,
of.
so
Yeah, go on.
if I may, there is a big reason why actually, right? Why we did it like that. So near runtime. So let me dive it in for a couple of minutes into it.
Yeah, go
So,
on. Yep.
so near runtime was it is not EVM compatible. It is designed to suit near blockchain, the asynchronous sharded horizontally scalable blockchain. So there is no such thing as an EVM inside of the near protocol. So we wanted to implement it and make this kind of compatibility for everybody who would like to extend their economics of their dApps outside of Ethereum without any major changes. And the reason why it is beneficial for both us and Near is the following. Well, for Near, it is just an additional runtime that is now available on the Near blockchain, and people are able to use it, right? In the end, everything is settled on the Near blockchain. So for Near protocol, it is good. For us, this cooperation with Near is also great because we do not need to think about validators, decentralizing of the stakes of these validators, consensus layer, storage layer, network layer. All of these we're consuming as a utility from the Near blockchain. We're just not thinking about it. The only thing that we are taking care of is, or like the only two things that we're taking care of is the runtime itself, right? And we just need to make sure that EVM is absolutely correctly implemented. And thanks God, we have implementations of EVM that we are just reusing and we are supporting them, right, over time. And another thing that we need to take care of is the conversion of the Near RPC into Web3 compatible RPC. So MetaMasks, remixes, truffles of this world are capable of connecting to Aurora. Because normally connection to the Near blockchain is done through Near RPC, which is not Web3 compatible. So we just created a simple middleware that translates one RPC into the other, and that's it. And here you go, the full scale EVM chain, or it is viewed like that, available at a very low cost of the development. And actually, we developed Aurora and everything that is connected with it in 4 months.
Wow.
And this is all because of this particular decision, make Aurora as a smart contract.
Makes a lot of sense, doesn't it, Alex? And then, like, as you rightly say, not having to concern yourself with the more complexities of blockchain while you guys can just get on with what it is you're trying to do. I think that makes a lot of sense. Cool. Thank you for that. You've actually educated me greatly there. So I really want to thank you. And hopefully the listeners learned something new as well. Let's talk about launching dApps on Aurora. I mean, I sometimes say that arguably a blockchain is only really as strong as the applications running there. So what's the kind of, and we've seen Aurora do good numbers. It's got a good success rate. You've got a vibrant ecosystem there. What's the process for people building dApps? Let's say, for example, on Ethereum, like we've mentioned this interoperability here, and they want to jump over to Aurora. Number one, why is that a good idea? I mean, obviously we can talk about gas fees and other things. What's the kind of process for dApps to build on Aurora? How simple is it really, Alex?
Yeah, so the reason why is it can be expressed in two words. Why not? Because in case you have your dApp that is designed to run on Ethereum, then the actual change that you need to make is the change into the deployment scripts. So you need to just create an additional target for the deployment that you usually do because you're trying your dApps to be deployed on testnets and then on the mainnet. So you have a testnet deployment, mainnet deployments, and then you just add additional 3 lines of code there in your deployment script, and you have an Aurora deployment. And that's it. This is exactly what you need to do in order to adapt your applications for the deployment into Aurora. As simple as that, nothing more. Full EVM compatibility and full compatibility with the Web3 RPC. Moreover, besides dApps, besides the EVM, besides the baseline that is required, dapps usually require some additional infrastructure projects. So, for example, like indexing solutions like the graph or Covalent, or maybe they would like to get price oracle data. All of these things are already available on Aurora. The graph is integrated, Covalent is integrated. Price Oracle with a chain link interface that is called Flux, they are also integrated. Then Etherscan is working directly with Aurora. So the way how you're looking into the transactions and how you're analyzing it, how you're verifying smart contracts is working absolutely the same way. So all of these things are available. So it is not only the simplicity of deployment of your dapps, but it's also the ecosystem around the dapps that are helping to build you front ends, analyze activity, and so on. All of these things are available. At the moment in the Aurora ecosystem, there are more than 120 dapps working.
Pretty impressive, I think. Thank you for that. That's an amazing answer as well. And I think one thing I just want to add to that as well is why is that a good idea then, Alex? It sounds like a no-brainer. If I'm a Dapp developer, I've got my Dapp on Ethereum, and the fees are eating my users alive. It's a no-brainer, really. So why is it a good idea for Dapps to hop over to Aurora? Is it cheaper? Is it faster?
It is both. So the transaction finality in Aurora is around a couple of seconds, 1 to 2 seconds, depending on when at the moment of the creation of near block you're actually sending the transaction. So it is super fast, which means that you can create better user experience that is closer to Web 2 user experience when working with the blockchain. And obviously the transactions are pretty cheap, so the cost of the Uniswap like swap actually is around 1 cent. So taking into account the very low effort of integrating of Aurora, I see no point in not doing it, right? Okay, you can spend an additional hour making sure that everything works, but then you're just extending your market also to the Aurora users. Or to the users, for example, who are not capable of paying Ethereum fees. And from that point of view, when young founders are coming to me and asking, okay, where do I need to deploy my DApp? I say to them, well, deploy to all of the networks where you can. Because you don't want to miss the market, right? For you, it is the most important thing to have is lots of users, right? So in case it is simple and smooth, in case it is not going to require lots of resources from you in order to adapt your application, then, well, just do it. That's it.
Makes a lot of sense. And we touched there on two things that I want to talk about as well in regards to this. And you said offering a Web 2 kind of user experience in Web 3. So it leads me to talk about onboarding of users into Aurora dapps. I mean, firstly, what's the difference between onboarding into a near dapp, something on near, and onboarding into an Aurora dapp? Do you need to use a near wallet? How does it work in regards to kind of user onboarding into Aurora?
Yeah, everything that is working with Ethereum works directly with Aurora. If you're a MetaMask user, you can use Aurora right away. If you're a Coinbase wallet user, you can use it. If you're whatever user of any wallet, you are capable of specifying the network. So the RPC endpoint and the actual network chain ID, you would be able to use it. Just because Aurora has a full Web3 compatibility. Near protocol has absolutely different RPC, and because of this, it has absolutely different wallets. So user onboarding on Near protocol is going to be much more complicated because of these specific things. However,
sorry, Alex, go on.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, however, I really deeply believe that user experience in the blockchain at the moment is extremely bad. So it's like from 90s.
It's worse, Alex. Like that was a compliment, I would say.
Yeah, well, do you remember when these times when we used first mobile phones and we were paying per second of our thing,
Oh
of our
yes.
conversation? This is exactly what we are doing in blockchain right now. For every small thing, you need to pay the transaction fee, and moreover, you even need to check whether the payment is delivered or not, because if not, you need to increase the payment and then push it.
Too much responsibility, basically, for a normal human, I would say.
Exactly, especially in the current with the current pace of the world, right, and with the current Web2 technologies. I do believe that Web3 people are stuck into this paradigm of revolutionizing this space by all of these great ideas, which I actually share. But the thing that I do believe we also need to do is learn from our parents, from Web2, in terms of the user experience, and we need to improve it. We need to really drastically change the way how people are interacting with the blockchain. The best blockchain in the end would be the blockchain that nobody knows about, but they are all transacting on it. Look at the internet, TCP/IP protocol. Everything is based on it. Does anyone who is listening to this
No.
part can write down even the basics of the TCP/IP? No, and that's okay. That's no problem.
That's the argument, though, isn't it? And I think you hit the nail on the head. I do believe the winning blockchains will be the ones that do the best job of hiding the complex mechanics away from the end users. They don't need to see that. There's no, I think, as you said rightly as well, like in Web3, people are so proud of what they're building. They kind of want to showcase it to everybody. And they don't think so much about, are these people actually interested in this part of my solution, as it were? Or should I just give them the final product? Like, I couldn't agree with you more. Like, user onboarding, I see as a huge issue in our space. And you mentioned mobile apps there as well. And I used to work in mobile apps. And I remember that, for example, with games, you would play the game before you decided whether you were really, like, the tutorial was the game, so that you would learn the moves and how to do things and be conditioned. Then you jump into a blockchain game and it's like, I don't get it. What do I do? Where do I go? How do I do things? It just all becomes very confusing and you just kind of run away, I think. And that's the general trend, I think.
All right.
What do you think, like, in terms of, like, we're talking about solving this as a long-term issue, and I think the solutions already kind of exist. What do you think about this, Alex? And is Aurora looking to kind of focus in that direction over the next few years to ease onboarding, or is it just something that you're going to let third parties deal with?
We do not need to focus on this within the next several years. We already delivered the solution. This is only the first version of it. Later, hopefully this year, it will be kind of the full feature set available to our users. The solution that we have is called Aurora Plus. I encourage everybody to take a look into the keynote about Aurora Plus. I'm going to actually post it in the general chat if it is okay.
Yes, of course. And this was a recent announcement about Aurora Plus, right? A new platform. You get free transactions, staking of Aurora. Yeah, let's talk about this, man. This sounds really exciting.
Right. So this thing. So what is this solution about? This solution is really about creating an account in the Aurora ecosystem for the user. And by saying creating an account, what in fact is happening is that we are capable of tuning the setup of the MetaMask or any wallet that is having an ability to set up to tune the network connection in a specific way, meaning that we are capable of identifying the user at the moment of the connection to this network. And then, because of these identifications, and I'm not talking about KYC or anything, it's just the ID of the user that is propagated there. And at the moment of identification, we are capable of delivering personalized experience to the user. I know that it sounds vague, but what does it mean? Like, what is an example of this? For example, we can deliver different gas prices for different users. And this is what we do from the very beginning of the release of Aurora Plus. So users are getting 50 free transactions per month.
Wait,
While
what?
some of the users
To other Aurora wallet? How does that work? Is that like?
right. So this is insane, right?
Yeah,
This is
I'm like, hey, where do I sign up?
yeah. So you can go just to Aurora.plus and you will get it. And this is like a very straightforward Web 2 user experience and this business model, kind of freemium business model, right?
Yeah,
But it is insane, and like it is very hard to comprehend how this freaking thing is working on Bitcoin or on blockchain. Sorry, because like how one user can have zero gas price while others are having at the same moment in time non-zero gas prices.
How do
And
you how do you define that? How do you define who's charged? What's it based on, Alex? Like,
and this is because of the personalization. So if you are creating an Aurora Plus account, our RPC, you're getting the personalized RPC link. And then our RPC is capable of understanding who is trying to access the blockchain. And that's why we are capable of delivering you personalized gas prices.
oh, that's pretty cool. So you get a bunch of free transactions. So this is like Aurora Me. This is like the kind of really customer focused part of Aurora, right? Where people
Exactly.
and this is to build some conditioning, I assume here, as you said, like this freemium model. Like you give them freebies and then they build conditioning. Right?
This is for actually implementing three major things in the future. First thing is that move from the per transaction payment into subscription models.
Yes. Okay.
This is something that everybody loves and everybody experience with the mobile phones at the moment. I just buy 10 gigabytes of mobile data at the price of what, $20 or whatever, and that's it. I forget about it. And moreover, I probably can do it as a regular payment, and I just don't think about it. It is super straightforward, super smooth, right?
Yeah.
This is one thing. However, only a smaller chunk. What I would like to propose to Dapp developers is actually to pay on behalf of the users for the transactions that users are executing when interacting with this particular Dapp.
Aha, I see.
And the reason why I would like to give an opportunity for Dapp developers to do it is super simple. I'm a YouTube user, and I have like YouTube exposes to me a very simple business model. Either I need to watch ads or I need to pay a $5 subscription, right? But YouTube is using Cloudflare. YouTube is using CDN network. Am I paying every time when I watch the freaking video to the CDN network 1 penny every time when I download video? Right? I'm not doing it.
Oh,
In
it's
Web
not
2, people are not doing it. Why people, when using DApp, need to pay to third party, which is in our case is a blockchain protocol? Why this payment need to happen and distract the user from the user experience of the DApp?
Yes, it's a really good point. Really good point. I've not thought of it like, well, I guess I just hadn't thought of it in that way, but it makes such a lot of sense. Like, how are you going to attract people when you're constantly trying to trip them over as well? Like in that sense,
Exactly. So that's the thing. So we're going to allow, since we're moving these kind of interaction in between we are hiding near blockchain from everybody. This means that it is our RPC who needs to take care of near, right? And the business model in between the user or a DApp and the user, it can be left intact, while the payment to the RPC for making sure that transactions are executed can be done separately. And the final thing that adds here is also a very simple idea. Now, in case user doesn't need to pay for transactions, the transaction cost is included into DApp a business model. Then the very last thing that remains is actually the application that signs the transactions, right? And at the moment we're using wallets, and one of the reasons why crypto wallets appeared is exactly because of the complexity of transaction costs, replaying the transactions, stack transactions, all of these complicated aspects. Since we removed this, the only thing that is required from the user is to authenticate the action. And Web2 knows a lot about securely authenticating the actions. And nowadays it is called Touch ID and Face ID. You just look at your phone goes to the secure enclave, takes the key, signs some kind of package or a kind of piece of data, and then sends it to the server, where the server verifies the signature and says, okay, this is the user, this is exactly the user that authenticated the action, and that's it. Our phones are better ledgers than the ledger itself. I'm saying about Ledger Nano, right? Or Ledger.
No, you make a good point. Yeah.
So why not to use it? And taking into account that again, the Aurora is itself a smart contract. Nobody we are capable of implementing an additional method in this smart contract, which is going to be not just execute Ethereum transactions, but execute Face ID signed block of data. And inside of this block of data will be, okay, the smart contract that needs to be executed, but just the cryptography is different. That's it. This is the future for Aurora Plus. This is the way how we see blockchain can actually get to the mass adoption. And this future is not very far, since the majority, the most complicated thing we already did. With Aurora Plus, within the first 2 weeks since the launch, we have 150,000 people registered, and by now, like 1 month after the launch, there is around 500,000 of people already registered there. That are getting free transactions on Aurora, they're getting great user experience, and this is only the beginning. With all of the additional features that I just expressed here, with an ability for dapps to pay on behalf of their users and hiding the blockchain cost inside of their own business models, with an ability of connecting Touch ID and Face ID, we are going to get to that beloved 1 billion users in the blockchain pretty quick, and this is actually our goal.
Wow, that's pretty exciting stuff, and I think it's the idea for me. One thing that really lights up there for me and dapps is the idea of integrating this free transactions, for example, into the initial offer of a DApp for like a game or a DeFi protocol. For example, you come in and as a welcome message, you're getting 50 free transactions. I mean, this is way more Web2 aligned, right? This is more what people want to see. It's what I would like to see, definitely. Is it sustainable though, Alex? Is it a sustainable way to move forward?
Is it sustainable for Google to have free offer free Gmail accounts to people?
No, probably not. But the bigger picture is ringing true. I see where you're going.
Yeah, so freemium models are working pretty well, right? And obviously there is a big question how to make sure that the business model for Aurora Plus is working great. But look, we have all of the experience of Web2 applications and Web2 world available at our disposal. Freemium models are working. Why not to use them?
I really like the approach here, Alex, that you're taking. So often we hear the opposite of this, that screw Web 2, we're all Web 3, forget about Web 2. But you opened with a very great statement, I think, learning from the elders, and I think it's vital. And something I've always thought as well is, if it's not broken, don't try and fix it, just work with it. So yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. Like I feel that the many blockchain loud voices are in their kind of teenager years. They're like, we are going to do the revolution. We are rebellions here. Our parents know nothing, right? And that kind of mood often transforms in the late 20s. Okay, my mother was right.
Well, we know that, don't we? I think we've all had those thoughts that, like, we probably should have listened, right?
Right. So let's keep this period in between 15 and 29 and focus on things that actually matter, right? And let's embrace the fact that Web2 know how to build business. Web2 know how to retain the users. Web2 know how to make sure that the user experience is great. And also Web2 know how to scale to billions of users. And let's just stop inventing the cycle, the bicycle, and just use all of this experience and make sure that blockchain is as great as Web2 in terms of the users, and after it, like, it will be a very straightforward decision for a user. Okay, I have the same user experience, I have the same kind of values, but in Web3, I'm more protected and I am in charge of my data, of my governance, right, and of my assets. Why I need to choose Web2 over Web3 in this setup? And so that would mean the actual revolution that we are going to do. But it is going to be silent instead of people going on barricades right now.
I was going to say the revolution will not be televised, right? Everything, all the noise is kind of distracting away from the reality of what needs to happen. I actually, this reminds me of a conversation I had with a guy at NIA, Wendell Adams, a few weeks ago on an AMA, and he was talking about how DeFi and gaming just kind of took everybody by surprise a little bit, and we kind of we got distracted with these things, and we had bigger things to work on, and kind of categories of dapps that have emerged have kind of distracted us a little bit from the bigger picture. I mean, do you think that now, given what's happening in the markets, that this is a time for builders? Like I keep saying it, but is that a big focus for you guys right now? Like, I know you said you're already kind of there, but you see the next couple of years playing out, like who's going to sink, who's going to swim?
Oh, sure, absolutely. I'm fully with you. This is a time for builders. I encourage everybody, especially the people who are capable of building, who are spending their time building, just close the freaking news websites, close the coin market cap, and just go build, and that's it. Just relax. Everything is going to be great. We've been through these cycles not many times, right? Like, everything is going to be great. Actually, we at Aurora created a very short 2-minute video about the same thing with the great, I believe, analogy around the trees, or the forest fires and things that are happening right now in the crypto market. So I've sent the link again in general chat. So encourage everybody to take a look into it. People the ones who feel that devastation from the market, for sure, next period of time, and I believe, my feeling that it's going to take more than a year, actually, of this type of market. This is a great time for everybody to build. The underbrush of scammers and people who are here only for short time profits, it is going to be removed, and that's why the conversations are going to become more deep, more detailed, more smart, and it is a great time for us as an industry to make a quantum leap.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And so, yeah, you heard it here first. Alex from Aurora says, just relax. Everything's going to be great. I'm keeping that one, Alex. I'm keeping that one. I very much agree with you here. And I think it's, good sentiment. But let's talk about categories, because obviously dapps are more than DeFi. Dapps are more than NFTs. Is Aurora? I see that Crypto Blades recently launched on Aurora. Is there a focus here for the next year or so to go after different types of dapps? Because predominantly you were quite DeFi heavy to begin. So is Aurora set up for all types of dapps, or are you open arms for everybody?
In general, yes. I can say that with the next product that we're going to launch later this year, with that release, we're going to set up to whatever dapps that people are thinking of, and we would be available to provide to all of them a place to live in the Aurora ecosystem. At the moment, we are somewhat limited, right? So again, pretty honest with everybody who is listening to this. We are, in the same sense, limited as any EVM-compatible chain. It is not scalable. It is by default one thread. It is by design synchronous, which means that it can work only on a single computer. It cannot be parallelized. Everybody who is saying that they are going to get more than 100,000 transactions per second, or like even more than 10,000 transactions per second on EVM, they are just lying in your face. Most probably, if they're saying that they are capable of more than 1,000 transactions per second, they are also lying. Just because of the fundamental limitations, right? So any applications that are allowing for insane load in terms of the transactions, all of these applications, unfortunately, are unable to be launched on the EVM-compatible chains. And from that, we are limited, absolutely the same way EVM-compatible chains are. But we are working on this limitation, and we believe that we will be able to overcome it. Please watch the next releases and follow the next releases from the Aurora team later this year.
Right, cool. And then I also saw, and this was a bit different for Aurora, I saw you guys dropped an NFT collection recently called Aura Bots. Is this a bit of a showcase of like the capabilities of for NFTs on Aurora? Like, tell us a bit about this, because it was pretty interesting, Alex.
This is actually a showcase of the capabilities of NFTs with working with Aurora Plus, because besides nice pictures of Aura bots that people already started to use as their avatars in profiles, and just besides that, the fact that they're looking cute. But it actually implements an additional kind of mechanics. So there is a usability feature in these NFTs. Usability feature is simple. The ones who own a bot, instead of 50 free transactions per month, then 5 free transactions per month. So it is fully done automatically. Our backend is tracking all of these things. Here is a very nice utility that you can implement. For example, you can think of the NFTs that are allowing you to have a 50% discount on all of your transactions on Aurora, or for example, a limited time NFTs that are allowing you to to have to have some premium, some benefits working with either Aurora Plus or Aurora as a whole. Moreover, taking into account that through Aurora Plus, we can personalize experience. Now it means that NFTs are not in kind of generic, may implement only generic things, but also they are capable of implementing more personalized things. For example, imagine an NFT that gives to all of the Aurora Plus members registered with Gmail account an ability to have 1,000 free transactions, right? And for those who are using a Proton Mail, it gives only 100 free transactions or something like that. all of this is also something can be implemented. More personalized feeling, look and feel of the blockchain. This is something that can be done.
I got it. So I had that feeling, and it feels like with you guys, everything you're doing it has a strong reason and use case behind it, either to test drive something to go bigger later, or to just roll it out to get things working in sync. So very cool, very cool. And it's quite exciting to have this conversation as well. And obviously, like right now, and we said it, and we're not going to say about the builders market again, but arguably the next few years are pivotal for proving the use cases of dapps. People are losing interest in tokens, and it's our role to bring them back to the applications, I think. Our role at DappRadar, anyway. Can you tell us a bit more about how Aurora plans to attract and lure devs over to Aurora to build? I've seen that some dapps have hopped on recently. your plans over the next couple of years to kind of like developer outreach? Is there funding? Is there grants? How can people get involved with Aurora?
Yeah. So our main premise here is that we need to make things fully compatible and fully intuitive for Dapp developers. And from that point of view, that's the reason why we have an EVM, and it's not implementing Substrate, for example, or Cosmos. So that's why we're going with EVM, because 90% of the developers of blockchain, of so-called blockchain developers, are actually Solidity developers, right? So this is one thing. Another thing is that we're trying to make it fully compatible. So all of the educational materials, all of the things that you will have seen in the internet will be applicable to Aurora too, not only to Ethereum. So that's the second thing. In terms of the grants program, my personal so Aurora is governed by the DAO. And obviously it is a DAO decision how to allocate money. But my personal belief is that grants programs are extremely broken. so
I'm kind of interested to hear your thoughts on this, because I have a similar theory as well. But yeah, go on, please continue with that.
Yeah, so they're extremely broken. So there is no point in giving grants to individual teams. It is not scalable, and it is not bringing benefits. Instead, I believe ecosystems should focus on working with ecosystem funds or creating ecosystem funds, working with accelerators, with incubators, and which is going to be more scalable process. And then these incubators and accelerators, they have more vested interest in the project. The reason why grants programs are broken is because of a very, very long loop incentives, which leads to misalignment of that. Because in case grant programs are run by the member of the founding team, it means that their incentive is just to be in the team, testing of the tokens, and this is their incentive. And the way how they are influencing it is that, well, they're just throwing money everywhere, and then they hope that some of these applications are actually going to deploy, and then maybe they're going to get users, and then maybe they are going to influence the token price. This is the incentive loop. It is very, very long. Instead of doing it like that, working with the accelerators is going to shorten this loop, because accelerators are going to do the thorough research on whether they would like to get an application of this project or not. They're going to get token allocation from this project. That's why accelerator is deeply incentivized, deeply incentivized to make sure that this project is going to be a success. And they are taking care of only this project, not about the ecosystem as a whole.
Yeah.
And then from on the level of the founding team, they are working with accelerators, and they are capable of actually making or creating KPIs for the accelerators that are going to be absolutely the same, and they would be able to track these accelerators and put them in a comparison and in competition with each other. And obviously, in case one accelerator is producing lower KPIs than the other, well, it means that this accelerator, we need to drop the funding of this accelerator and allocate more funds to the second one, right? So this model allows for scalability of the ecosystem building. It allows for shorter feedback loops and more aligned incentives, and it brings value to everybody. Instead of these developers that are going and just taking all of the grants from all of the chains, they are sticking with one particular accelerator, focused on it. Accelerator team is putting their time in this team, helping them to create a business instead of a scam. And everybody are getting something better. So I'm a true believer in this model of the world.
And I really agree with everything you just said there. And one feeling I've had for quite a while now is that money is money. And you've said it too, that you can throw money at problems, but without the correct technical expertise, the correct backing, support, marketing, tooling, it all plays its part in the bigger picture and building that ecosystem, for example, like you say. So yeah, I'm completely with you. I mean, in terms of Aurora running such programs, is there anything happening in the near future that perhaps any devs could jump into? Any hackathons, any kind of workshops, or is it a case of they need to kind of approach you and you guys all decide whether it looks good or not?
So at the moment, there is a leftover. There is a leftover Aurora Aurora grants program. So people are capable of going there, and it's super simple. Aurora.dev/grants.
Okay.
People are capable of getting there, and but the way how it works is going to be a pretty different experience from other grants program. So yes, you're creating an application there, but then we are also joining the calls. We are working with you actually to make sure that your application is going to be delivered. But we're transitioning into this more scalable model, working with the accelerators and ecosystem funds. So these funds are already in the process, and I know at least one accelerator that already works. It is called OWC, Open Web Collective. So this accelerator works for new and Aurora ecosystem. So in case you're a developer, you're seeking for some help at the very beginning of your journey, this is one of the places that I can recommend you to go.
Nice. And it also sounded like a lot of the stuff for Aurora is kind of what you could call off the shelf, that developers can just head over to your docs and other resources and your education resources and just kind of get on with things, right? Or have I misunderstood that? But it sounded quite self-serve.
Absolutely, absolutely. Our docs are I can say, like you would be able to run to read all of our documentation within some tens of minutes, just because we do not need to explain how it works. It's just like a plain Solidity, plain EVM. You just use it. You can take the Solidity docs. You can use it. That's it. There are some very very minor specifics for Aurora that are required for very low amount of people. For example, how to run an Aurora node, right? We're explaining that there are no Aurora nodes. You need to run a near node, and then on top of it, you need to run an RPC that connects to this near node, right? And we're explaining how to do it, right? Things like that. So these specifics is actually inside of our docs, while the for the Dapp developers, there is almost nothing about the specifics of the smart contracts of anything. There are just examples how you need to tune your truffle deployment scripts in order to work with Aurora, and that's it.
Okay, nice. So pretty straightforward stuff. All right. Thanks. We're coming to the end of the session, and honestly, I could feel like I could sit here and we can talk all day, but we do have to wrap it up a little bit. But I have a question actually, and it leads on from what we were just talking about. And in terms of kind of dApps launching on Aurora, Curve Finance, one of the most important players in DeFi, integrated Aurora recently. And what does this mean for users of Aurora? How does it help? What's the benefits here?
Yeah. So previously on Aurora, there was a stable swap solution that is called Rose Finance.
Yes.
And they have been using Curve smart contracts, but still, if you have third party without a brand, especially when we're talking nowadays about stable coins, it is a little bit of a sensitive topic, and people are kind of not trusting, and they believe that they need to have a very very good open provider for stablecoins, to make sure that in case something bad has happened, they're capable of exiting, right? So obviously, a Curve deployment without a brand was not given lots of confidence to the Aurora users. While at the moment, since Curve deployed officially, they are now getting this confidence. Moreover, one of the spin-offs from Near, Proximity Labs, this is a spin-off that is focused on bootstrapping the DeFi ecosystem, was allocated to Curve up to 7, depending on the KPIs, obviously, up to 7 million in Near and Aurora tokens that are to be used as incentives for bootstrapping the liquidity in the curve pools on Aurora. As far as I understand, the activity right now is not that big, probably just because of all of the turmoil that is happening with the market. And when things will cool off a little bit, then most probably Curve team are going to go pretty deep in terms of using these incentives to bootstrap the liquidity. So this will be a stable swap solution with a name, and people will be trusting a little bit more to this solution than to the kind of forks of it with different brand.
No, it makes good sense there as well, and I think sometimes it's interesting as well because you talk about Curve, and some people have not heard of them from a branding perspective. But yeah, honestly, well, perhaps not people who work in the space, but perhaps people who regularly trade, for example, with stable coins through Uniswap or another platform, and they're kind of interacting with Curve, but they don't know it almost. So. All right, cool. So on Aurora,
to me, this is instant thing. I was once speaking with one guy, and I was telling to him about Curve, and he said, "Oh, is this the application that has an interface of a MS-DOS loader?"
Yes.
And I said, exactly.
I found that hilarious the first time I looked because I was like, this is kind of a tip of the hat to doing things well and not trying to be all fancy about it in terms of its design, but at the same time, super appealing to the demographic audience, right? Like Windows 98 styling. I was taken by it. Do you like it, Alex?
I can be honest. This is not my piece of cake. I'm more of a very light interface. Well, you can take a look at our websites and our
simple to use stuff, right?
Yeah. Very straightforward, intuitive. But I do understand why this is picking up.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. All right, Alex, we've come to the end of this session. I just want to thank you again. You've done an amazing job of outlining everything that Aurora is about, how it works, and I think people listening today and listening back will learn an awful lot. But moreover, I think our conversation has been quite telling in regards to where we think this whole space is heading and what's important. So thank you, Alex. Your answers were excellent, and I've really enjoyed today's conversation. I just want to give you the chance to, is there anything else you want to get out there? Any shout outs to any places where people connect with you, or things just to watch out for in the very near future?
Sure. Thank you very much for having me here. I really enjoyed the conversation. I see that there are lots of people who are joining and listening. So big shout out to DappRadar community. Thanks for tuning in. And not only for Aurora, this is very important for any developers out there. So they are heard. So you're doing a good job. In case you are willing to follow the updates of Aurora, you can the most simple way to do it is follow our website and our blog on the website. The website is aurora.dev, and the second thing that is where the updates are posted frequently is Twitter. Nobody limits what Twitter can do with crypto. So Aurora official crypto Twitter handle is Aurora is near, right?
Okay.
In one word. Yep. And my personal is Alex Aurora Dev.
Awesome. All right, brilliant. So you guys heard it. If you want to ask some questions, because sometimes in these sessions, they're quite a lot to take on, like I said at the beginning, and people tend to be like, okay, let me absorb all of this and then let me think about it. So thank you, Alex. You've done a great job answering all the questions. And I do believe we will meet again and talk about Plus and perhaps talk about the fact that you've just onboarded 1 billion users, maybe. And again, I'm just going to come back to what you said because I love it. Just relax. Everything's going to be great. I think that's a great takeaway from this AMA this week. So once again, thanks, Alex. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
No, it's been a pleasure. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And we'll see you soon here on Discord. We've got more AMAs, more sessions coming up. So keep it locked into Twitter. You'll find out everything that's happening. And thanks, guys. I'll see you all soon. Thanks again, Alex. Take care. Have a great day.